Let's start today with a quick gut check.
Okay.
If an extension could suddenly read your last 100 AI chats, would that make you sweat?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Be honest with yourself. Because if I look at my own history, you'd find draft contracts, half-baked roadmaps, maybe some highly questionable code.
Always the questionable code.
Yeah, and frankly, a few dumb questions I definitely shouldn't have typed out loud. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We have a really fascinating stack of sources to go through with you today.
Really do.
We're looking at cybersecurity reports from Malwarebytes and Fox News, an eye-opening article from PC Mag, and a highly detailed transcript breaking down a recent Microsoft security report.
It's quite the stack. And looking at all these sources together, they paint a very clear, if slightly unsettling, picture of where we are right now with generative AI.
Unsettling is definitely the word. Our mission today is to uncover exactly how secure your AI conversations really are. We're going to look at the hidden vulnerabilities in both the mobile apps you download and the browser extensions you plug into them.
Right. And most importantly, we're going to equip you with practical strategies to actually protect your data. Because, spoiler alert, your data is probably far more exposed than you think.
Yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, artificial intelligence development is moving at an absolute breakneck speed right now.
Totally. Every week there's something new.
Exactly. Every single week, there is a new model, a new feature, a new integration. But security and privacy, they're lagging dangerously behind. I mean, the industry is essentially building the airplane while flying it.
Yeah.
And we are just now realizing we forgot to install the seatbelts.
Seatbelts, doors, maybe even the landing gear at this point.
Pretty much.
Let's jump right into our first segment, because the scale of this first story absolutely blew my mind. There is a massive data leak involving a mobile app called Chat and Ask AI.
Yeah, this was huge.
This isn't some obscure niche tool that 10 people downloaded in their basement. It is incredibly popular.
Yeah.
We're talking over 50 million users across the Apple and Google app stores.
It's a massive user base. Right. Now, a lot of people downloading this app, they thought they were just getting a handy tool to chat with a super smart AI on their phone. Okay, let's unpack this. Chat and Ask AI isn't an AI model itself. It's what developers call a wrapper app.
And that distinction is the entire crux of the vulnerability here.
So this app, developed by a company called Codeway, basically acts as a middleman. It just plugs into the real heavyweights like OpenAI's ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, Google's Gemini.
It's just an interface.
Exactly. It gives you a nice, clean user interface on your phone. You pick which brain you want to talk to, and it routes your questions. But here is the catch. While OpenAI or Google is doing the actual thinking, it's the wrapper app, Chat and Ask AI, that is handling your user data and your storage.
And that is exactly where the disaster happened.
So how did they actually lose control of the data? I mean, 50 million users.
The why behind this disaster is almost frustratingly simple, and it comes down to human error. The breach was caused by a well-known, heavily documented misconfiguration in a service called Google Firebase.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, Firebase is essentially a back-end as a service platform. It helps developers build and scale apps very quickly without having to manage their own physical servers.
Makes sense.
But one of the most common errors developers make when setting this up is leaving their security rules set to public.
Wait, public? As in anyone on the internet?
Anyone on the internet. It is exactly what it sounds like. Often, developers do this during the early testing phase.
Just to get things working.
Right, just to make sure the app can talk to the database without permission errors getting in the way.
Yeah.
But they forget to lock those rules down before pushing the app live to 50 million users.
Oh, wow.
It allows anyone who simply has the project URL to read, modify, or even delete the entire database without needing any authentication whatsoever. There is no complex hacking required here, no cracking passwords, just a completely open door.
An open door that let an independent security researcher who goes by the name Harry walk right in. And the numbers he found sitting behind that door are staggering. He accessed 300 million messages from over 25 million users.
It's just a massive trove of data.
We're talking full chat histories, timestamps, the custom names people gave their chatbots, and the specific AI models they were using. And because people tend to treat these conversational AIs almost like private journals or therapists, the content was incredibly dark.
Very dark.
The reports highlight people asking for suicide assistance, how to write suicide notes, or even how to manufacture illegal drugs. This is deeply personal, sensitive stuff, and it was tied directly back to real users.
What's fascinating here is that this wasn't an isolated incident with just one sloppy developer.
Right.
This raises a much larger systemic issue about the current software ecosystem. After finding this massive open door, that researcher, Harry, decided to build an automated tool to scan for this exact Firebase vulnerability across other applications.
To see who else was leaving the door open.
Exactly. And out of 200 iOS apps he scanned, 103 of them had this exact same misconfiguration.
Over half.
Over half. Collectively, those apps were exposing tens of millions of stored files. It shows a fundamental lack of security hygiene in the rush to capitalize on the AI boom.
Everyone just rushing to market.
Exactly. Developers are racing to get their wrapper apps out so quickly that basic database security is being completely ignored.
That completely shatters the illusion of safety. It means you're basically flipping a coin every time you download a third-party AI tool.
You really are.
But I can hear people listening to this right now thinking, well, I don't use wrapper apps. I only use the official apps from the big tech companies, so I'm fine.
If only that were true.
Unfortunately, that is not the case at all. Even the absolute giants in the space are dropping the ball. Let's look at the PC Mag report about OpenAI itself, the creators of ChatGPT.
The March 2023 incident. It's a perfect example of how complex these modern software systems are and how easily they can break, even with billions of dollars in funding behind them.
So picture this. It's a Monday morning, you log into ChatGPT to start your work week, and you look at your sidebar where your chat history lives. Except, you aren't seeing your chats. You are seeing the titles of conversations from complete strangers.
Just showing up in your own feed.
Right. People were understandably panicking, taking screenshots, posting them online. They thought their accounts had been actively hacked by cybercriminals.
It wasn't a malicious hack, but the reality wasn't much better for user trust. OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman, eventually had to come out and confirm the data exposure.
Right.
He blamed it on a software bug in an unnamed open-source library. And this is a crucial concept to understand. Modern software is rarely written entirely from scratch.
They use building blocks.
Exactly. Developers use open-source libraries, which are essentially pre-built chunks of code written by other people to handle routine tasks, like managing user sessions or formatting text. Essentially, a piece of code OpenAI borrowed and integrated into their system had a hidden flaw.
And that flaw caused the system to basically cross the stream.
Yes, serving up one user's private data to another.
And while Altman noted that it was only the titles of the conversations that were exposed, and that clicking them resulted in an error message, the blast radius was still massive. It proved that your private workspace isn't an impenetrable vault.
And we also need to note that it wasn't just chat titles.
Oh, right, the payment thing.
Alongside that open source bug, there was another apparent glitch that affected ChatGPT Plus subscribers specifically. The payment form actually started leaking the email addresses of other users.
Unbelievable.
So you have a situation where both proprietary chat data and personally identifiable information, your email, were exposed simply because of a bug in a borrowed piece of code. It proves that trusting the direct source doesn't guarantee your data is safe from exposure.
That is deeply unsettling. So whether it's a wrapper app on your phone or the flagship model from a tech giant, the baseline risk is already massive. But now we have to talk about the newest threat vector.
This is the really cutting-edge stuff.
Yeah, and this is where the Microsoft security report comes in. We are talking about malicious AI extensions. Let me use an analogy here to set the stage. Think of an AI assistant as a brilliant worker who lives inside a highly secure, locked room. That's the sandbox.
Okay.
They can answer your questions, brainstorm ideas, write code, but they can't actually do anything in the outside world. Extensions are like giving that worker a passport to leave the room.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. The
Wow.
extension bridges the gap between the isolated AI and the rest of your digital life.
Right. These extensions are tiny apps or plugins that let the chatbot book a flight for you, pull a record from your internal company database, or summarize a live web page. They are incredibly handy.
Very useful.
But as Microsoft flagged in their report, they are also incredibly risky. How exactly does an extension go from being a helpful assistant to a massive security hole?
What's fascinating here is how messy the trust model is right now.
Hmm.
When you ask your AI assistant to use an extension, say, to summarize an email, the assistant has to pass context to that extension so it knows what to do.
Makes sense.
But that context doesn't just include your immediate one-sentence prompt. Depending on how it's built, it often includes your entire recent chat history, any files you've uploaded for analysis like CSVs containing financial data or proprietary source code.
Everything is just sent over.
And crucially, OAuth tokens.
Okay, and OAuth tokens are essentially digital keys that grant access to your other accounts, right? Like giving the app permission to read your Google Drive without handing over your actual password.
Correct. Once a malicious extension has that context,
Mm.
the files, the history, the tokens, it has its passport. And because extensions operate outside the AI's secure sandbox, they can make network calls to send your data right out the back door to an attacker's server.
Okay, so a malicious extension gets its passport and sneaks out with my chat data. What is the actual end game here? Are attackers just snooping for the sake of it, or is this organized?
Oh, it is highly monetizable. The Microsoft report outlines an entire attacker playbook. The first thing they look for is IP leakage.
Intellectual property.
Intellectual property. Think about what professionals use AI for today. They're drafting strategic corporate memos, testing negotiation angles for a buyout, or building proprietary pricing models.
All the secret sauce.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All of that intellectual property shows up in your chat drafts. An extension can siphon that up and send it to a competitor or hold it for ransom.
I hadn't even thought about the draft process. You might spend 2 hours debating strategy with an AI before you even write the final document. What else are they doing with this harvested data?
Social engineering is a massive threat here. If an attacker has your chat history, they don't just have your data, they have the exact voice, tone, and context of your entire team.
Wow.
They learn your internal corporate nicknames, your specific greetings, how you speak to your boss versus your subordinates. They can use that deeply personal context to write terrifyingly accurate phishing emails.
Because it sounds just like you.
These aren't the generic click here to reset your password emails. They are messages that bypass all your standard mental defenses because they sound exactly like a colleague continuing conversation you had yesterday.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
It weaponizes your own communication style against you. And I imagine compliance is a nightmare here, too. What happens if someone in HR or finance pastes a spreadsheet into an AI to format it and it's full of social security numbers?
That is what we call a compliance landmine. People frequently paste protected health information or financial data into these chats. Even if you only tested it one time just to see if the AI could format a table, if an extension grabs that context window, your organization is suddenly looking at mandatory regulatory reporting, severe audits, and massive fines for exposing protected data.
And what about those OAuth tokens we mentioned earlier?
This is perhaps the most dangerous tactic: pivoting tokens. If a malicious extension grabs a session cookie or an API key that the assistant is holding in its context, the attacker doesn't even need the AI anymore.
They just bypass it entirely.
They can use that stolen token to quietly hop out of the AI environment and pivot directly into your real enterprise systems. They can read your calendar, download files from your cloud storage, or pull customer lists from your CRM, all without ever triggering a login alert.
Because the system thinks it's just the authorized extension doing its job.
Exactly. It's the ultimate skeleton key.
So the Microsoft report is very specific about how these extensions physically grab this stuff. They don't just magically absorb it.
This raises an important question about the architecture. The report outlines 5 distinct paths of exposure. The first is function calls.
Okay.
This is where the AI assistant realizes it needs help, literally packages your active chat prompt, and sends it directly to the extension's external endpoint to get an answer.
So the AI is practically handing the data over on a silver platter.
Yes, as designed. The second path involves broad history APIs. Some platform architectures are designed to let extensions automatically fetch your last 10 or 20 messages.
To give it more context.
The logic is that it provides better context for the extension's answers, but a malicious extension just quietly archives that history. The third path is file handles. You upload a highly sensitive PDF, and the extension asks the assistant to pass the raw file over for processing.
And the fourth is the OAuth flow we just talked about, right? Where you click sign in to link a service, the extension receives the token, and a bad actor just keeps it permanently.
Exactly. And finally, the fifth path is caching.
Like browser cache.
Similar concept.
Yeah.
The AI assistant stores context locally in its short-term memory to speed up response times. If the permissions in the environment are too loose, an extension can just dig through that cache and read data from conversations it wasn't even involved in.
So if a developer builds an extension with broad permissions, they can siphon everything at once using these paths. And what's worse, even a good extension, one you've used safely for months, can turn bad overnight through a silent auto update.
Happens all the time.
You click allow once, the developer sells the extension to a shady company, they push a malicious update, and a month later, it's quietly stealing your files.
Without you ever knowing.
So what does this all mean for you? We've painted a pretty scary picture today, but the goal of this deep dive isn't to make you delete all your apps and throw your computer into the ocean.
Please don't do that.
You don't have to start using AI. The productivity gains are too immense to ignore, but you absolutely have to change how you use it. Let's talk defense. I'll start with the personal privacy tactics, pulling from the Malwarebytes and Fox News guidance.
Let's hear it.
Rule number 1. Keep your information impersonal. I know it sounds basic, but it is so easy to accidentally treat an AI like a therapist or a confidant because it responds so conversationally. Do not use your real name. Do not upload personal documents like tax returns. Just see if it can read them.
No tax returns.
And definitely don't rely on an AI for deeply empathetic life decisions. They do not have feelings. And as we saw with the Chat and Ask AI leak, your darkest moments could end up sitting in a public database.
That psychological detachment is absolutely vital. You must actively train yourself to treat the AI as a public bulletin board, not a private journal.
Next, check the privacy policies before you download a new app. If it's a wrapper app from a developer you've never heard of, be extremely skeptical. And here is a huge tip from the sources. If you are using an AI developed by a major social media company, think Meta AI on WhatsApp, Google Gemini, or xAI's Grok on X, make sure you are actively logged out of your social media accounts while using them if you want any semblance of privacy.
Because if you stay logged in, you are essentially linking all your anonymous, experimental AI chat history directly to your real, authenticated identity.
It just ties it all together.
It completely de-anonymizes your data, linking your weird 2 a.m. questions to your friends list, your personal profile, and your targeted advertising ID.
Finally, on the personal front, consider using data removal services to actively scrub your digital footprint. Data broker sites constantly scrape the web for phone numbers, addresses, and family connections. If your AI chat data does leak in a breach, you want to make sure it's as hard as possible for scammers to cross-reference that leaked chat log with your home address or phone number.
That's solid advice.
Okay, those are great steps for individual users. But what about the listeners who are tuning in right now thinking about their workplace? If I'm an IT director or a business owner, how do we defend the enterprise against these malicious extensions?
The Microsoft report provides a very robust, high-level mitigation playbook for enterprise environments, but it requires a fundamental shift in how organizations view AI tools.
Okay.
The very first step is implementing allow lists. You must block all AI extensions by default across your entire organization. You only approve the specific extensions that your security team has thoroughly vetted.
Default deny. It sounds restrictive, but it prevents an employee from randomly installing a sketchy PDF summarizer extension they found on a forum.
Exactly. And tied directly to that, you need to implement version pinning. As you mentioned earlier, extensions can silently auto-update with malicious code. By pinning the version, you lock the extension to the specific safe version you reviewed.
So updates don't break the security.
Right. If the developer updates it, it doesn't automatically push to your employees. Your security team reviews the changes first before rolling it out. Third, you must use vaulted credentials. Employees should never, ever be pasting raw API keys, passwords, or database credentials directly into an AI prompt.
Because if the chat history leaks or an extension grabs the context window, the literal keys to the corporate kingdom leak with it.
Precisely. You need to use secure vaults that inject short-lived, narrowly scoped tokens into the workflow rather than exposing raw keys to the AI. Fourth, the report strongly recommends OS-level sandboxing.
Right.
If possible, run your AI assistants in separate virtual machines or entirely isolated browser profiles. They shouldn't share a file system or even a clipboard with your highly sensitive work environment.
Now, I have to push back on that a little. Sandboxing sounds incredibly secure, but doesn't that make the AI incredibly annoying to use? If I can't easily copy and paste from my main work screen or let the AI see my active desktop, people are just going to try and find workarounds.
It adds friction, absolutely. It is the classic security versus convenience trade-off, but that friction is the point. By isolating the AI, you contain the blast radius. If a malicious extension does compromise the AI sandbox, it can't pivot into your local hard drive or steal your operating system credentials because there is a hard virtual wall between them.
Painful, but I see why it's necessary. And what about visibility? If all these defenses fail, how does an organization actually know if an extension has gone rogue?
That is the final crucial piece of the enterprise playbook, active monitoring. You need to route your AI assistant and extension logs into your SIEM, your security information and event management system. Think of a SIEM like a centralized security camera network for your entire IT infrastructure. It watches the traffic. You are looking for anomalies. Is an AI extension suddenly sending massive amounts of data out of the network at 2 a.m.? Is it trying to contact a new unknown server in another country?
And what about stopping the data before it leaves?
For that, you set up DLP, or data loss prevention. Think of DLP as an intelligent bouncer standing at the door of your company's network. It actively scans the prompts and the attachments your employees are trying to send to the AI.
So looking for patterns.
Yes. If an employee tries to upload a document containing a pattern that looks like credit card numbers or proprietary source code, the DLP bouncer spots the pattern, tackles the prompt, and blocks it before it ever reaches the AI assistant or the third-party extension.
So allow lists, version pinning, vaulted credentials, sandboxing, and heavy monitoring with SIEM and DLP. That is a comprehensive, actionable checklist to take back to your IT department tomorrow morning.
It is a strong foundation. And if we pull back to summarize the core philosophy of everything we have unpacked from these reports today, it is this. Your AI chats are not just disposable ephemeral text.
Right.
They are not like a quick Google search that you forget about 5 seconds later. They are production data. They deeply reflect your organization's strategic plans, your personal access levels, and your private thoughts. You need to treat your chat history like a highly sensitive, confidential database. But crucially, it is a database with backups that you do not control.
That completely changes the equation. You are handing your most sensitive data to a third party and then plugging a fourth party, the extension, into that.
The ecosystem right now is simply too fragmented.
Yeah.
You have different extension stores, different developer rules, and incredibly weak permission structures. You cannot rely purely on the vendors to have a magic kill switch that protects you after the fact. Once the data leaves the sandbox and hits an attacker's server, it is gone forever.
It is out in the wild, and there is no getting it back. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive today. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. The biggest takeaway here is to stay sharp. The convenience of these generative AI tools is absolutely incredible, and they are changing the way we work. But you have to make those extensions earn your trust. Read the permissions, guard your prompts, and keep your deepest secrets out of the chat box unless you absolutely must.
And before you go, I want to leave you with one final, slightly chilling scenario to mull over.
Okay.
We talk extensively about how attackers monetize this stolen data. Consider the slow burn approach. What if the next major stock market anomaly or a massive insider trading scandal isn't triggered by a traditional Wall Street wiretap or leaked internal email? What if it is triggered by a seemingly harmless, malicious AI extension that quietly sat in the background, doing its job summarizing documents while silently reading a CEO's draft messages about an upcoming unannounced corporate merger? The data is out there right now. It is just a matter of who is reading it.